Okay. And this is the quote unquote pre-show, which really just
it's like us hitting live.
Time enough for me to like tweet shit out.
So I'm sorry if this if our background and title contribute to more like Facebook moms against demonic super Eyepatch Wolf.
Oh, don't worry about it. That's I feel like I'm already kind of like on the other end of that, and you can't make it any worse.
I was going through it because trying to ask like, well, I was thinking like, did you make like a Devilman Crybaby video? Is that like their demonic angle? And then Onimar said it was just a DBZ video, and I was like, I don't think there's inherent demons in that, but I guess
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, it's just
I've dealt with
demonic.
the Christians.
Sorry, guys,
for DBZ.
1 sec. My battery's just died in my headset. I'll just only take a second.
Oh, no problem. I do really love this background you made, though.
Thank you. I channeled.
It looks really good.
I channeled a lot of things there.
Is this just like freedom of expression?
Yeah. I combined, unholy things together.
But one of them is like intentionally unholy.
Yeah.
It's funny you say this because when I was playing Yumi Neko, they had some demon circles, so it's all coming together.
Sorry about that, guys. We should be good now.
All right.
No problem.
Nope, we're good. Everyone in the chat, before we get started, is volume good? Do I sound good? Does Shaw sound good? Does Eyepatch Wolf sound good? Does anyone sound too loud? Even though I was the only one speaking just now.
Hello, everyone. Here is my voice.
This is my voice.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to know how I sound.
Please advise. All right. People say we sound
good.
Okay.
Everyone,
so we're just gonna
we're
gonna get started. Y'all sound good. Everything is perfect. You're perfect. Beautiful. All right, we're gonna get started. We have like about an hour after the stream. We're gonna try to open up to some maybe like 10 minutes of Q&A. So you can like ask questions. We might not get to it during the main like recording part of the podcast, but we'll try to address stuff in the Q&A afterward.
And if it's a bad question, we won't get to it at all. So
yeah, we just won't look at it.
Just generally a good rule.
Yeah.
Only we're allowed to have the bad takes today. So, all right. And let's see. Let's get things rolling. Okay. Welcome to the Just Weaves podcast. I'm your host, Onimaru, and I'm joined every week by my co-host, Shocking.
Hi, guys.
And today we have a special guest, fellow YouTuber, gifted storyteller, and now alleged anime Satanist, Super Eyepatch Wolf.
There's nothing alleged about it. Like, I try and be as transparent about this as possible. I am from Satan. I am here on her behalf. There's no subterfuge here. I'm just being open about it.
All right, so we have Satan himself, Super Eyepatch Wolf.
You love to see it.
Oh yeah, that was a trip. That whole thing.
You've had a lot of things going on recently, from the Dell story. You know, if I don't know,
the Dell epic.
As many of you that are familiar with it, Super Eyepatch Wolf did a full thread on his Twitter about a nightmarish, sprawling, gripping, tale of him trying to build his own Dell PC, and everything that you think could go wrong went wrong and kept going wrong.
It just doesn't stop. It was just crazy. And yeah, there's a lot of there's. I nearly don't want to spoil the thread if people want to read it, because there is some fun twists and stuff. But that was building a PC. It's I know just enough to know how wrong it can go, but not enough to do it properly.
There was times while I was reading the thread, I just caught up to it in full last night, that it just felt like, these were moments that if I were in his shoes, that would break my sanity, and it was clearly breaking his. And then after it broke it just kept going. So,
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
like a point, there's like a real moment of like just heartbreak and giving up. And I think that's about a quarter into the thread.
Yeah. I do like the like slice of life moments of the thread of like I sat there feeling very stupid or I was so frustrated. I'm going to bed right now. I felt like those grounded moments really like made you feel like you were building a Dell PC and wanting to die. Like
Yeah, it was a fun thread to write. It was like one of those days like do you ever kind of sit down to write a script and all of a sudden you want to write anything but the script? And that just came out of me that morning. And I was like, okay, I guess we're not writing about Space Jam 2 today.
You know, there were moments in there that like actually one of my favorite moments that you did was when you would say like, you know what, I don't want to repeat this, so just read it twice so you can re-experience what I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Definitely like Twitter at its peak. I think we see Twitter at its abyss on like a daily basis. So that was some nice brevity added to the platform. Much needed. Thank you for your contribution, even though it was because you were suffering. So I think we all appreciate your sacrifices.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, if people were entertained on the internet, what does anything else matter?
Oh, God. That's such a sad commentary on the state of the internet.
That is a good transition.
Just life in general.
Yeah. Good transition into laughing at the Satanists. I mean, the anti-Satan anime videos where we will laugh at their expense because it's really funny.
Yeah. So what happened there?
Okay, so I got an email one morning and it was someone's like, some Christian YouTube channel like stole one of your videos. And like my videos get stolen, I would say semi-regularly. The last time it was like some Italian fascist dude, I think. And that was sticky. But this time it was a Christian YouTube channel who had released part 1 of their documentary series, The Dark Side of Anime Exposed, which just fucking title, like brilliant. Yeah. And so I scrubbed through a bit of it and I'm like, this is pretty wild. I think I'm going to stream this thing. And so I got on stream that night and I just kind of streamed myself watching it. And it was just so like, you couldn't invent something like that. Like it was so stupid and just nearly kind of innocent, but then like it was kind of like the thing that kind of pissed me off is it was kind of bigoted as well. Like there was some kind of homophobic and transphobic stuff in there, and that kind of pissed me off. But then we got to the actual meat of it, where like they actually use my video, and they're just like, here, it's like their avatars are all in anime style, which personally I think is a questionable choice considering what they're going for.
It's pretty demonic adjacent.
Yeah, and they're like, here's what one anime fan had to say about Dragon Ball Z. And like there's this part in one of my videos where I talk about like, if you used to watch Dragon Ball Z on TV as a kid, it totally felt like a show you shouldn't be watching, and that's what made it exciting. And they just ripped like an entire minute and a half from that video and just put it in the center of their video. And I was like, okay, that's pretty bad. But also like, YouTube's YouTube. You have to kind of like allow for a certain amount of leeway with that stuff. Like I think it's in bad taste to upload someone else's video or that big a section of someone else's video, but it was like, what can I do about it? But then I discovered that they're actually selling that documentary on DVD for $30, which means that they're selling part of my video as part of that for $30.
So you could sue them.
I could sue them. And I've thought about it a lot, and I actually think I'm not going to, because I just don't want the hassle of having to pursue a legal case that would stretch out for years. I don't want to have to explain to a judge what Dragon Ball Z is. Like, but that said, I am currently working on it's not a video, but I'm working on a project that I believe will make them very, very sorry they ever did this. And that's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for me.
That's
looking forward to it.
That is
sounds
like,
great.
That somehow sounds like infinitely more menacing than like, I will sue you. Because you're like, I'm working on a project and they're not going to be happy. That was like,
no, they're not going to be happy at all. I think I can't remember if I left it or not, but I meant to leave a comment on their videos being like, hey guys, great video. Sure hope this doesn't come back and haunt you in some kind of horrifying or humiliating way.
Oh God.
That's
I just picture the DVD just being sold at Christian bookstores. Here you go. But what was the main accusation that made it, I guess, satanic? Or I don't know if you watched that far.
So like these are real like hardcore Christian, where like a mention of the devil is to be avoided because it's satanic, And so then like, they watch a bunch of these Japanese shows and they see all this like Eastern culture and, a lot of it's influenced by Eastern religion or Eastern mysticism. And they take that as satanic. And so it's like, anything, like they go, look at this section where the character Vegeta has an M on his forehead. In the Bible, marks on the forehead indicated a satan, blah blah blah, and then like they have a bunch of shit about Sailor Moon and how like the lesbians from that who were cousins, and they had all this like really misleading editing because they also had like shots from Sailor Moon Crystal, where it gets kind of gay, and they had that as part of the original. They were showing that as if that's what aired on television in the 90s.
Which
and it's
it
like,
wasn't.
no, that was censored to hell. Like this is like, not only is this really bad taste, it's incredibly poor journalism.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to having some good solid revenge.
I'm excited. I just think it's wild. Then we had Devilman Crybaby come out in 2018. There were how many YouTube videos on Devilman Crybaby where like it's in the title. So naturally they go back to one of your videos with DBZ and say, this is the one. This will prove the demonism in anime.
Out of all the anime YouTubers, why you?
Yeah. And it's so weird because they have a little thing where they like credit me, and they credit me as anime fan.
And everything you work towards just to be known as anime fan.
Not even anime enthusiast, just fan.
Not even expert. Not anime expert. Not anime like essayist.
Well, now in fairness, that would be misleading. That would then they would be lying again.
But they're already on that train. They might as well lie in like a positive way. That's somewhat beneficial.
I just find it super interesting because I'm very well acquainted with Christians finding anime satanic. Growing up, I was really into DBZ, and I grew up in a Christian background, and they always told me like Dragon Ball Z, that's satanic, Pokemon satanic, because of all of the Eastern influences, the depiction of the dragon, that's satanic, the dragon, the Dragon Ball.
So wild.
Like yeah.
They go to like a Chinese restaurant and there's a dragon there. They're not going to complain about how satanic it is.
Sorry, I just at one point I am sure. Okay, yeah, here it is. In the year 2000, Pope John Paul gave his blessing to Pokemon, saying the games did not have any harmful moral side effects and were based on ties of intense friendship.
Wow.
It's like he co-signed anime, guys. You got to sit down. They got to. Yeah. He gave it the cosign, which means this is like not an isolated occurrence. There's like a group of Christians who are like, we need to stop Pokemon Go. This is it. It's corrupting the children.
It is.
But their documentary it's like a 40-minute documentary, but it's only part one, and it ends on a big cliffhanger because it's like, have you guys ever heard of the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion? And that's like part two.
Yes, let's go.
I can't wait for part two. Like I am so excited to watch part two.
I think I have to watch it. Just, I don't know.
Maybe they'll rip your video, Onimaru. You might have a feature. You might not even know.
So. I didn't delve that deeply in order for them to say something.
You never know though. There's a chance.
Maybe. I don't know. I think
we'll have to stay tuned. I'm excited.
I'm just super interested because what they're gonna say, since sometimes I've noticed that Christians take a lot of things at surface level, so I wouldn't be surprised if they look at Neon Genesis Evangelion and be like, it has crosses in it. It's Christian. It's a good influence. But
I want you to imagine like the most easily upset Christian possible, and then just keep going that direction. Like that's who these people are. Like it is just nutty how much they're like. Just Satan is in everything, sex is in everything, violence is in everything, and it's wild. But I'm having fun with it at this point. Like I did get really bummed out on stream when I saw how much of my video they used, because it was like, oh, I worked real hard on that, and yous just fucking took it. But
Yeah.
it's I think this will be a fun saga when all is said and done.
Speaking of a video you worked real hard on, I recently watched your Space Jam 2 video. That was
My documentary.
their documentary. Sorry,
I
That
like the
was-
use of documentary a lot.
it was a trip. It was really interesting. But one of the things I was thinking while I was watching it, because I had read the Dell thread, was like, wait, how was he able to do this video while going through the whole Dell debacle?
Hmm.
Did that affect your workflow with the video? Were you already working on the video?
Oh yeah. Like I've been working on the video a fair bit when the Dell stuff happens, but basically like there was a day where like I took out my old PC and I like connected my new PC and Premiere collected all the files onto the new thing and was like, here we go. And then I was trying to edit the Space Jam 2 video and I was like, well, this is not fast at all. And that's what kind of started the whole kind of backwards thing. So I basically had to do the Space Jam 2 video on my old PC then, which like, it's not that bad because like, it's not a terrible PC. It's a couple of years old and everything just takes like, a second or two longer than you needed. So like, it wasn't even that like the productivity was a problem. It was more having to just deal with the Dell shit constantly while trying to make another video, like waiting for phone calls, waiting for deliveries, all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
And what made you want to do the Space Jam 2 video? Because I haven't seen all of your recent videos, but that to me felt like kind of a departure. It felt a little different from what you've normally done.
There was a couple of things. The first one was the previous video I worked on to this was called The Bizarre World of Fake Psychics. And I kind of went into that video thinking it was going to be like a very light video. Like I could kind of just joke around about like these goofs. And it ended up being like an incredibly dark video at points, like really had to talk about some really uncomfortable, just infuriating things. And it left me in like not a great place mentally by the end of it, because like I had spent weeks just like looking into these people who are scamming other people, like all these kind of like really sad cases where people are trying to get like medicine and they're convinced that like faith healing or psychic healing is the best thing for them. And I just kind of came out of it not really wanting to talk about anything. And I was like, okay, if we're just not really in the mood to do another like video essay type thing, like if you could do anything in the world right now, what would you want to do? And it was like, I think I would want to make something that's the complete opposite of that psychics video. And I like that as well, because like, I like the idea that with my channel, like you're never really 100% what I'm going to do. And that's kind of important to me personally. Like it's important to me to kind of keep people guessing, but it's also important to like keep me like excited creatively. You know what I mean? Like I always want to be making videos that I couldn't have made a year ago. And then with that video, it's actually like an idea I'd had for a really long time. And it started off as I just wanted to do like a kind of April Fool's video about Space Jam. This is like 2 years ago, and like a real deep analysis of Space Jam. But then I kept missing April Fool's, and then I was going to do it this year. And of course I missed it again this year. And I was just like, oh, fuck it. Let's just do it. And then like, it was a chance to work with my friend Rebecca again. And she's like so talented. And it was, it was the most fun I've ever had working on a video for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that
That's
Agent
awesome.
Smith cameo. Spoiler.
Yeah.
No, it was really, really fun to watch. I didn't think it was going to take the trajectory that it was going to take. So
Yeah, it sure takes a turn, doesn't it?
yeah. And did The Last Dance coming out last year really help with making that video, since you already had the idea for like 2 years ago?
Big time. That's where I think like the idea of like actually making a fake Space Jam 2 came from. Because like, The Last Dance, it's like a sports anime. Like, and I know it's not like a sports anime. I know that sports anime are like it, but that's just the stupid way my weird brain is programmed. And I just really like fell in love with just that whole story of like the Chicago Bulls in the mid-90s and just really wanted to do something with it.
Yeah, it was a really, really good documentary. If you know you haven't watched it, anyone in the chat, definitely check it out. Even if you're not a sports fan, it was very interesting because if you grew up in the '90s, you always heard about Michael Jordan, and you know,
Mhm.
then Space Jam kind of helped with that. So it really helped when I watched it, piece
Yeah.
things together about like you know the context for
Yeah.
Space Jam and what you know why Michael Jordan was so big at the time and all of that. But speaking of sports and sports anime and you know shonen, let's get to the real meat of this podcast.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about bad shonen takes because as you're well aware by now, you're sort of notorious for some of your shonen takes and takes on other anime, of course. So let's talk about that. How do you feel about that?
I think like personally, like my videos just go out to enough people that the way I kind of always talk about YouTube is like if you take any kind of hardline stance in a video, like if you give a strong opinion about anything, if 100 people watch your video, you're gonna piss at least one person off,
Mhm.
like at least one. You know what I mean? And then when you start to extrapolate that out to big numbers to like 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, a million people, you're going to end up pissing a lot of people off, and so with me, like I have pretty strong opinions about a lot of things, honestly, and so I can understand that, like, kind of, not everyone's going to agree with it, but I also don't make videos for everyone to agree with. I
Mhm.
make it about how I feel about stuff. And that's not like discounting the times I have just been like factually wrong about stuff. Like, that's a different thing. And that is something I try and avoid. But people especially get really fired up about shonen. And I don't know
Yeah.
what it is about shonen particularly, but like, it is shonen discourse online is just always on fire, and saying that you think this series is bad is like, it's like a sin to some people. But for me, like if someone's like, Yu Yu Hakusho shit, I'll be like, because I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I love it. Like, it's my fucking like favorite show, or like at least top 3. But like if someone else is going to be like, yeah, I just didn't like it at all, I'm not going to be like, you're wrong. I'm just okay.
Yeah. I think it's because it's like the demographic is so much younger, and I think
And it's such a wide audience because as
Yeah.
Sean and I talked about in a previous shonen episode, it's like you have such a like it's so accessible shonen that it reaches a lot of people, and then you have all
Yes.
these different age groups.
Yeah. And I think people definitely treat it kind of as like I think they treat their favorite shonen kind of as like a sports team. So it's like they have that kind of like competitiveness with other ones, even though unlike a sports team, you can kind of like root for them all. You don't have to
Yeah.
like pick one and then that's like your do or die team. Like you can enjoy all of them, but there is just something visceral about like shonen takes where it brings out like the most competitive, like, I don't know, shit talky-ness in anyone where they're like, you can't put this show above this show. This one's so much better. Like,
Yeah.
then they pull out everything from like power systems, complexity, character development, fights. Mostly fights. It's mostly just fights.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it's a weird one for me because like they're like, you're right, like there is a kind of vitriol to it a lot of the time, and like especially with like what I see a lot of now, and like not even towards me but just in general, is it's like it's not even enough to say someone's wrong anymore. It's a lot of the times it has to extend into this like honestly quite strange kind of personal territory a lot of the time, where it's like, okay, this guy doesn't like Dragon Ball Z, but not only does he not like Dragon Ball Z, he's a bad person, and here's where you can see him lying, and it's like, come on guys, like for fuck's sake. Like I love anime, like anime has done a lot for me, but at the end of the day, like it is entertainment, and like we can chill and we can disagree about it.
Yeah.
I think also shonen for the most part, I think falls more in that realm. Not that like I think all anime is at the end of the day, like you said, entertainment, but I think shonen is the closest to that in people's perception, where it falls more squarely in that realm of people just see it as entertainment and try not to look too deeply into it. Even though, does clearly have themes, but with shonen, they're a little more, simplified. And so everyone can kind of weigh in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get both sides.
Yeah, totally. And I think like with a lot of shonen, you can look into it as much as you want, like I was reading what's his name? The guy who makes Earthbound and Mother, Itoi. I was reading a bunch of his stuff recently, and he had a quote I really, really liked where he was kind of basically talking about how when he makes a game, he basically sees it as 50% complete. And then the player brings the other 50%. And I think that's like a really lovely way to look at art. And like, being on kind of my own end of that some ways, like I have noticed that like, sometimes I'll make videos and I'll specifically want them to talk about one thing. And then sometimes like the discussion can kind of spiral off into something that I never would have thought of, like not positive or negative, but it is like people really do bring their own experience and their own meaning to, creative projects. And I think that's awesome. Like I like that a lot. And that's why something like, Yu Yu Hakusho, which would be one of the like Yu Yu Hakusho, like in a lot of ways it's anime WWE, but then like in a lot of other ways for me, like it is a really important like personal anime that has some really powerful themes in there about like, I guess like how you choose to go through life and like the choices you make. And I would not get something like that from say like My Hero Academia, like at all, but I'm not going to shit talk someone who does, you know what I mean? Because that's their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Yep.
Is it accurate to say shonen is, I think it is, your favorite type of anime, your favorite demographic?
I would say shonen is close to my favorite kind of entertainment, just in general. Like, it would... Actually, that's tough. But
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I would say shonen is my favorite type of anime. I think the only problem is I have watched so much shonen at this point. I feel like it takes something really like world breaking to kind of get my attention. And so like, a lot of people are super excited about Jujutsu Kaisen at the moment. And I think it's cool. Like, I think it's fine. Like I'll watch like a couple episodes every now and then, and maybe like it ramps up a lot, but I have yet to see anything from that I guess I haven't really kind of seen in other places as well, but that's not even an objective criticism, because like if you haven't watched as much shonen as me, or you just don't care, then that's probably a really exciting show. And like it looks great and like the characters are fun and everything. But I think there is a curse when you've kind of just watched a lot of everything,
Yeah. And I think that's tougher because we're older, and it's like for so many people, like you guys were talking about like DBZ and then like Yu Yu Hakusho, especially, like those were kind of the Jujutsu Kaisen of like our childhood. So for a lot of kids who are watching now, like that series, it might be that like Yu Yu Hakusho for them later on. But then for us, we're like, this is cool that you enjoy it. I mean, I like Jujutsu Kaisen, but I generally agree that it's like nothing I haven't seen before. So if someone is like, this is the best thing I've ever seen, I'm like, that's really cool, and I love that for you. I might not agree 100% because I've seen a lot of other things before that click with me a bit more, but like totally valid that this is like your new favorite thing. This is doing it for you. This is going to be like a, youthful connection that you'll have that you'll appreciate, later on too.
Yeah, totally. And like you could take that a step back as well, and I feel like the generation above us, like the people who are like trading VHS tapes at like 80s anime conventions, they'd probably be like, I mean, Dragon Ball Z is pretty good, but like a lot of that stuff was already done in North Star, and you kind of like, I don't think our generation is kind of special like that, but it's just, it's what happens when you just spend like 15 years watching anime.
Yeah. And then depending on where you join in, if you weren't there from the beginning with North Star, you joined in with Dragon Ball Z, or you join in later, you're just kind of seeing a culmination of influences. So you'll if you started earlier, someone that just started with Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer is kind of just seeing that for the first time, and is sort of that show has already been influenced by multiple properties, and so it's kind of an amalgamation at that point where you kind of started.
And like to be clear as well, like if you are someone who just kind of comes in and Demon Slayer is like your first anime ever, I really do believe strongly that your opinion is just as valid and interesting as someone like myself or like you guys who has seen like all this stuff. Because like I think like like innocence to to like a media can bring a really interesting perspectives to it as well. I remember one of the most interesting anime conversations I ever had, and it was with my friend's little brother had come to town, and he was like staying over for a little bit. This kid was like 11, a real nice little kid, and he had started watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. And I pretended not to know what that was because I really wanted to hear him explain it back to me. And hearing like this 11-year-old kid try and like explain what Neon Genesis Evangelion was like fucking fascinating. It was more interesting than like, you know, a lot of conversations I've had with grown adults about Evangelion. And so like I always remember that. Like I'm always curious to hear people like who don't have a lot of experience with the medium, because I think that's really interesting as well. Like my partner doesn't watch like a lot of anime, but then like it's very interesting then when they get into an anime, like when they really start to like get their teeth into something that is, it's always really fun to like pick their brain about like why this one and not this one, you know?
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. I think that's really cool to hear. Do you remember what he said? I'm super curious now. No worries if you don't remember.
Oh,
what he said,
it was like he is a man grown now. It was a while ago, but I remember him being like, "There's this girl, Ray, and she's kind of like if nothing was a person." And I was like, "Whoa!"
Oh, he's kind of onto something here.
I mean, yeah, you know, and like it was kind of like a lot of statements like that, like talking to someone about anime who'd never been to an internet message board, and it was just cool, you know. Like I liked that.
Yeah,
you're having better conversations with the youth than me with my younger sister, who just recently said you need to watch One Piece because it's like Hunter x Hunter but better. And I was like, guess who's not getting a birthday present this year? You.
Yeah, I know I kind of just said about like respecting people's opinions, but at that point we're fucking throwing hands. And
that's what I see. It's family. You keep it in the family. I'll respect random internet strangers' opinions, but my own family, nah, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I could totally see someone liking One Piece better than Hunter x Hunter. Like, I love One Piece and I love Hunter x Hunter. I'm a bigger Hunter x Hunter fan, but I think there's just more stuff in Hunter x Hunter that speaks to the kind of stories that I appreciate. And like, I'd love One Piece. Will always love One Piece. It is a commitment, you know, and it is like I feel like I have to kind of nurse my relationship with One Piece in the same way I do some people I know, where it's like, oh, I haven't spent any time with this person in a while. We should probably catch up, you know?
Yeah,
it's like small doses for people in real life. I know that feeling.
It's been 4 years or 5 years since I've caught up to One Piece, so I gotta get back on that someday. And speaking of Hunter x Hunter, though, I was recently talking with a friend who I recommended. He had been watching some of it, and I was like, oh, just, you know, and he loves Yu Yu Hakusho. And he was like, I was just like, hey, wait until you get to the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter. There's some interesting stuff there. And now he's recently been watching it. And, you know, he hasn't watched a ton of anime. He's watched a few. He has his favorites, loves Dragon Ball Z, loves Yu Yu Hakusho. And now the other day I saw him and he's complaining to me about, you know, Hunter x Hunter. He's like, hey, you're like saying that, you know, just wait and see, like this is going to get so good. And we're like on episode 110 already of this Chimera Ant arc. And I'm already feeling like Yu Yu Hakusho is just a better show. That's it. There's nothing in this show that can happen now at this point that like, I think that is not better than Yu Yu Hakusho, and I was just like at a loss for words. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Just keep watching.
You see, the Chimera Ant arc is tricky because like I feel like it's maybe 2 out of 3 people who are like, whoa, like this is fucking crazy, and then 1 out of 3 will be like, why is it taking so long?
Yeah,
you know, and that's the kind of reaction. So like I could kind of get it. Like I wouldn't agree with it, and like I think Hunter x Hunter is a better show than Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm still kind of up in the air about which I actually like more. Because goddamn, like when Yu Yu Hakusho is like, you know, when you're getting to the end of that dark tournament, it's just some of the best fucking shit in the world. Like I love it so much. But I mean, it depends on the day as well. It's like, do you ever try and like arrange your like top 20 anime and then like try and do a week later and a week later and a month later and just watch things kind of swim around as shit is going on in your life? Because I think that stuff's real interesting as well.
Yeah, I just got into that recently, so I haven't done that enough. I think Shaw can speak more on that and having a rearranged top 20.
Yeah, because he just made his Mal. Like he just went through, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna talk about our favorites. So like, you got a week to come up with your top 10. He's like, what are you doing? But I like always love making favorite lists, but at some point when it's like two shows are like so close, I'm like, I need to pick one. It's like a Sophie's choice. Like I will pick one and then I'm just gonna stick with it. And then sometimes I like have to revise it, but sometimes I just like outsource my opinion to like past me. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this show more. But I totally know what you mean. There's so many shows where it's like any given day I could just like this one more.
Yeah,
totally.
I mean, the only one that I have that's unchanging, that's never, it's hard to change. The rest are just malleable. Just they can just change, and that's the hard part. But always Neon Genesis Evangelion is number one. So that's easy. The rest is hard.
I've been having a kind of like sort of like a conflict lately because like for I'd say the last 4 or 5 years I've been like, okay, my top 3 anime: Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, Neon Genesis.
Nice.
But something in the last like 6 months has had me like, but that Cowboy Bebop though.
Yes.
And I'm really struggling. Like I think the older I get, the more I love Cowboy Bebop and the more I really fucking see like what that show is trying to say and just appreciate it on this complete other level. So yeah, that's been my inner anime conflict for a while now.
Yeah, I feel that.
I think as you get older, obviously, like you just things that kind of went over your head when you were watched it much younger. It's just interesting to revisit as you're older because then you'll pick up on things that you didn't appreciate before because they kind of you didn't get how they flew over your head, but now that you've actually experienced it, you're like, oh, I get what they're talking about. And then like that's what happened with me on my Ava rewatch. I'm like, oh, all the times I rewatched Ava, I just pick up something like new at a different point in my life that I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was less empathetic to Shinji when I was younger. I'm way more empathetic to Shinji now, and I'm like, oh, he's just trying to do his best. Why is everyone just shitting on him?
Yeah, it's like when you're a teenager, you're like, what is wrong with this little fucking nerd? And then when you're an adult, you're like, oh, he's a teenager. That's what's wrong with him. Like that's all that's wrong with this poor child.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's always interesting to revisit, and I guess we're aging ourselves here. As you might not know this, but the alternate name to our podcast is the We a Boomer podcast. This is.
You guys aren't boomers, are you?
No, we're not actually boomers.
Okay,
but compared to like
I'd
the
be like,
50s,
wow,
60s.
how do you guys do that? That's incredible.
A wicked skincare routine that we actually learned from Gigok last time he was
on. Yeah, I mean, like, I get it though, like, in that you're not the young gen, like neither am I. I am absolutely like when sometimes my Twitch stream explodes into calling me a boomer when I have like old man opinions. But
I like the old man opinions though. I feel like it's like I think it's nice to remember like cell animation, talk about that, not immediately write off like old anime is like looking bad and kind of like. I mean, I'm not sure if those are your opinions, but that's what I always think of with like old man opinions where I'm like, hey guys, like Cowboy Bebop, Cardcaptor Sakura, those actually look really good and still look good compared to like modern anime. Like,
if someone, I think what that can be though is just, and I hate saying this because I don't mean to sound like a dick, but if someone is like Cowboy Bebop is a bad looking anime, that to me is just someone who doesn't understand a lot of visual design. And I don't even mean that in an insulting way. It's just when you look at how that show is constructed, it is just unfathomable to me that someone could be like, this looks bad.
Yeah. I think at that point, it's like, I'm just probably never going to agree with you on something visually. So I'm just going to like stop it, like cut it there. It's like, I don't think we'll see eye to eye on visuals if you're saying like Cowboy Bebop looks bad because we're looking at it two completely different ways.
But then like I think of like, modern anime and like, some of my favorite looking modern anime like Mob Psycho.
Yep.
And like it looks really simple, but I just love how it looks. I love how Pokemon Sun and Moon look. I think they look incredible. Like just for a kids show, they look so good. And they do shit you couldn't have done back then, just because animation is so much easier now. There, that's kind of switched to digital. But I don't prefer either. I just like to see both mediums used to their full strength, you know. And I think like digital animation is like, oh, we can put like 800 frames in like, you know, this one piece of animation. We can make it, you know, do it. And like Mob does that really well and has super simple character design, so the line mileage is super low, so they can do that. But then like, you know, if you want to go watch like an episode of Outlaw Star, it's like, oh, look at this one frame that this animator spent a day drawing, and it doesn't move, but boy, does it look nice, you know?
Yeah. There's
100%.
There's definitely a different kind of appreciation there, you know, of the things that they were able to do like back then with the limitations, and that's what makes that interesting, as opposed to now, where the cool things that they can add now with digital.
I watched Vampire Hunter D for the first time recently. It spent like 20 years on my watch list, on my to watch list. That film broke my brain with how gorgeous it is and the technology they were working with. Like, just the opening, there is more animation in the opening 5 minutes of that than I think there are in like some just anime series general.
Really? I gotta check that out.
Incredible.
Is that Bloodlust or just Vampire Hunter D?
It's the 2001 or the 1999 one?
I think that's Bloodlust. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
It's like a
it's the really
film.
It's the kind of Ninja Scroll-ish one.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Where you could watch those two films and be like, these came from the same era.
Yeah. And it's yeah, that looks pretty. I've heard about it, but I never checked it out. It looks pretty dope. So, I mean, it's got your cosign for more animation than like an average anime season. Then, like, I'm down. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's fucking beautiful.
That's amazing. Yeah. We can add that to the plan to watch.
I think I did just watch Bloodlust. I never watched the original because I heard everyone always recommending the Bloodlust movie. So that was like a quick 48 minutes.
Yeah, I've heard the original's like it's okay, but Bloodlust is like where it's at. Like, and it's Bloodlust is totally one of those things as well where you watch it and it's like, oh, the people who made Bloodborne liked this anime a lot, you know, and it's like, oh, there's that dress from Kill la Kill, like you see all this stuff that like references it, and it's really cool.
That's awesome. I love that.
That makes sense. One thing I did want to ask about, and we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I just find it interesting, and was your recent Bleach video, where it's not super recent, but like where you doubled down, I think, on your opinion from the Fall of Bleach video. And I didn't watch either, but I know, like, I've heard about it.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember you being, I just find it interesting because I remember you being like kind of apologetic about the Fall of Bleach video because you know, people took it as
like pretty apologetic because there's like factual inaccuracies in that video, and like not like I don't like this character, but like straight up, these numbers are not what I am portraying them as. And this is a very poor representation of like actual numerical factual information, or like information where there's no basis of.
Right.
Basically, like that original video is like a complete journalistic failure. And so that's kind of why I wanted to redo it. But if I was going to redo it, I also had to like, okay, I got to rewatch Bleach and I got to like give it another shake. And it's like, because like, do I still think that like it falls off at a certain point? And what I found with it is that I really loved the parts I loved, but then like, I just still wasn't into the rest of the show. And I felt like with that video, I tried pretty hard to be like, listen, this is my fucking opinion on Bleach. Like, that this is what it is. Here's another YouTuber who thinks Bleach is way better. You can also watch his video. And I was kind of like, I was hoping that would like mend some fences. It did not. Like, people were fucking pissed. And like, I get it, but like, I do feel like that's what I think on Bleach. And like, you can kind of argue with me all you want. I'm never going to think Bleach is better than that. Like, no conversation is going to convince me that I enjoyed Bleach more than I did. And then, like, you know, I know people have this big debate over like subjective or objective criticism, and like, I don't care really. Like, for me, it's just, did I enjoy the show or did I not? Like, and yeah, sorry, I kind of cut you off there. Did you have a specific question?
No, it was you've answered part of it because I was interested. Now I have like a separate question, but sticking to the Bleach thing, how do you feel when people like did you read all of it? Did you read all of Bleach like in its entirety?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I dropped it after the when it started the Fullbring arc, and I never wanted to go back.
The
But
Fullbringer, like it's not like there isn't good stuff after the Fullbringer arc.
or
It's just
sorry, Thousand Year Blood War arc. At the beginning of that, I think I stopped or something.
oh
like
man, that's actually there is some really good shit at the start of that arc. Like I actually really like stuff from the start of there.
that. Okay. Well, I've just never been compelled to go back, but for Bleach, how do you feel like when people? Because I don't know what your gripes were with it. Maybe again, like you just enjoyed most of it, parts of it you didn't like, and overall you just didn't enjoy it as much as other people that are defending it do. But what about when people come back to you and be like, well, you didn't understand the themes, or did you look at what Kubo was doing from here and then towards the end, and kind of bringing back all those themes that you didn't look into to appreciate it more? Because I feel like that's usually the argument.
To me, it's like I have heard some of those arguments about like the insane depth of Bleach and like all these like themes that Kubo is kind of hinting at and saying. And like I have friends who make these arguments. Like I've talked to some of my friends about this, and that's cool. I just don't fucking care. And like I don't mean for that to sound super dismissive of it, but a problem I have, I feel like, is that what people seem to be saying, and like look, if people believe this, it's fine, is that Kubo told this like quite simple story on the surface, but if you look in all the cracks, if you look in all the subtext, if you look in all the themes, there's actually this like super deep narrative or whatever. But to me, the idea that like you would write a worse story in like the broad strokes of your narrative than you would in the subtext, that's fucking insanity. Like, what are you doing? Like, just write a good story, It gets complicated, but to me, I think like to get to the level that a lot of like where like, and like I've seen like it's not like I'm saying people who like really love Bleach are wrong. I don't think like I think they're completely, if that's their experience with it, great. But for me, I think it's like you have to have an enormous amount of faith in Tite Kubo to back up a lot of those arguments. And I just don't have that faith in him as a storyteller. Like, and I can't really accept that. For me, it's just never going to click that he's actually trying to do all these different things. Because a lot of it nearly gets kind of like, I would say conspiratorial nearly, where it's like, oh, did you notice in chapter 500 this thing happens, but in chapter 201 this character said this? I can't believe Kubo had that foresight. And it's like, did he? Like, did he? But that gets into this really subjective, difficult to define territory of like, where does like your interpretation of something end and where does like authorial intent begin? And I think that's up to every audience member to decide for themselves. And for me, nothing Kubo was doing was really investing me to the point that I would want to get into those deeper aspects, or honestly B, really believe or accept that they're part of the story. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like I think at a certain point, when you're talking about anime, and especially when you're talking about like a 500 chapter anime or a 400 chapter anime, you can read into it in kind of whatever way you want, and like that was part of the Space Jam video. I was kind of like, how deep can I go here with Space Jam? And you can get pretty deep pretty easy. And like, I feel like this is going to sound really disrespectful to people who do look at Bleach in that way, because like, and I really don't mean it to, it's just when someone kind of comes back to me and is like, you missed this or you didn't understand this, I don't really think that's like a kind of, I don't really see that as kind of being a valid response to my experience with it. It's like someone else wants me to have their experience and I kind of can't,
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree as like just a general talking point, no matter what the series is. Like, I think also, hypothetically, say a series does have those themes, it doesn't mean you have to connect with them. And having themes is not an inherently good thing. If they don't connect with you, then the series is not doing its job. I consider myself a neutral third party because I haven't read or watched Bleach, so I have no opinion on it. But I think you could apply like any of the talking points that you mentioned to like any series. I know that's like a big Neon Genesis Evangelion thing. Like, if you don't like it, that means you didn't get it or whatever. And maybe some people are like factually inaccurate in their recounting of the story, which maybe you could say like, hey, like you were wrong, like this event did not happen. But beyond that, you can't be like, hey, this story has themes, so you got to like it. Like, that's not really
Yeah.
how experiencing
But
media
even
works.
like Neon Genesis is a really interesting example because like, for years, like I remember like being on the internet in like the early 2000s and reading people talking about Neon Genesis, and there was a lot of people being like, you have to have like basically a degree in like biblical studies to even understand what Anna was trying to get at with Neon Genesis. And then like, a couple of years ago, he came out with that quote where he was like, we just used the fucking Christian imagery because we thought it looked cool,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, it's difficult, but like, that's to me why like it's really difficult to, when you really start to dig down into the meat of a story, it can be very difficult to define what it is on a broad scale to a lot of people. And that's why for me, it's just like, hey, I like this thing, I don't like this thing. I'm not trying to say any broader facts. And like, like when you do have an audience the size of mine, like you're just going to piss people off any which way. And so like, I wasn't surprised at the reaction with the Bleach video, but it's like, that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
I think yeah, I have a separate question actually unrelated to this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because we're probably running out of time. But with your videos, you mentioned something about I think with your first Bleach video, it was a failed attempt at like journalism or something like that. It wasn't good journalism. So that's an interesting question as someone that YouTubes as well that I've thought about. Like, do you approach your videos? Do you think of yourself as a journalist? Do you approach it like journalism or like art?
No, I'm not a journalist, but journalism is part of my job. So basically, I when I approach a video, like there's my experience with whatever I'm talking about, and maybe that could be 100% of the video. Like I'm trying to think of something like that. Like I would say something like my original Hunter x Hunter video is nearly just 100% just an opinion on Hunter x Hunter. But then something like I do a video series called The Current State of Shonen Jump, where I look at like basically the sales data, and like that series was something I did really wrong at first as well. But it's something where I look at the sales data and like kind of just the trends in the shonen industry, and that video is like 50% opinion and 50% just hard numerical fact. And it's something like that, I have to take the journalism quite seriously. And if I get something wrong, I have to own it at some point and I have to correct it, because otherwise, like, I am legitimately just spreading like misinformation. So yeah, it's like, I think if you're doing video essays on YouTube, you don't necessarily need to be a journalist. Like, I think it's hard to describe myself as a journalist when all my research comes from me sitting in like my office room, just Googling things. Yeah. But journalism is definitely a part of it.
Okay. So like you see it more as basic intellectual integrity, or, the standard kind of, it's not that you're trying to, like, journalism is part of it as far as you're just trying to cover your bases and not spreading misinformation and just doing just intellectual honesty.
Yeah. And I think anyone posting shit online owes their audience that much. And like, I'm sure there's plenty of people who would say like, I do not hit that, because like it can be difficult to hit. And sometimes like it can be very difficult to tell in the moment, like what is true, especially if you find like varying sources or stuff like that. And sometimes you have to kind of roll the dice on it, But I think as long as you always try and correct yourself on the other end, you're going to be okay.
So on that note, also, what's the main, what do you find yourself like seeing as the main goal of your videos? Do you see it as like art, self-expression, just sort of just, hey, I just want to kind of just say my opinion and put it out to the world?
To entertain people. Like, okay. I don't see what I do as like a very like profound thing or anything. It is self-expression for sure. And like, I think it's art, but like, I think everything's art. Like, I think everything is art, and not all art is good, But yeah, I mean, like the thing I always say about my videos, like the purpose of my videos is I like to imagine, you know, someone having a shitty day at work, coming home and just being able to chill out with a video of mine for like 30 or 40 minutes and just like, you know, get out of their head and kind of just kind of take a load off in the same way a lot of my favorite content creators do for me, you know, because I think that's probably the most valuable thing I can do with this platform.
That's awesome.
That's great. That's good. Especially that you're focusing on videos that you want to do. I think that's the most important thing and is increasingly becoming a harder and harder thing on YouTube, but
for sure. And that's you know, that's like, that is a whole other conversation, but I have a lot of friends who do YouTube, and you know, a lot of their day kind of gets taken up by like what will do well, or like what will the algorithm like. And I think that can be a dangerous hole to fall into, because I think you kind of just have to do your own thing, like if you want to stay happy doing this job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up until this point, we've done a pretty good job of humanizing Super Eyepatch Wolf, but now we're gonna get into the dicey territory. We have something here to address.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Pieces. This is so bad. Okay, bad take number 5. My Hero Academia is a nice looking anime/manga that is completely average in every other way. It takes all the best moments from other shonen, and those moments are done better in those original shonen. Have fun with that one, chat.
So I had come across this, and
awesome.
I had tuned into that stream, you know, just out of curiosity. I was like, hey, what's going on? There's a chess stream, and Mr. Eyepatch Wolf here was giving some bad takes whenever he messed up a move. And now I have to say, the chickens have come home to roost, John Walsh.
For the record, I agree with Super Eyepatch Wolf. So, yeah.
Damn.
So I agree. We're playing 3D chess, and you're like, "We're here to corner you." I'm like, "Nah, just you." I agree.
No, I'm aware. It's just me. I think a lot of people are normally down on My Hero Academia in general.
Not normally. This is a new development.
Is
I'm sure
it? Okay.
I'm not sure how long you felt like this.
I mean, like, I felt it since like the past year and a half. Like, I think since season 4 of My Hero Academia.
I think that's accurate. I was of this opinion a bit before the curve, which was not a good place to be in. So I mean, I also don't think, like, I don't want to like celebrate it, but I mean, yeah, it's kind of newish, but I'll let.
So you can go back to, I think, my 4th video, and I think it was like a spring anime video. And I just talk about like all the new anime out that season, and I talk about the first the first episode of My Hero Academia, and I'm like, I don't like this show. I don't think it's very good.
The reason I bring it up is because I just actually find it interesting, maybe because I've also watched a lot of shonen, but I haven't been like hyper aware of, you know, of certain moments. And I know you've kind of done a lot of analysis on it. And I know it's obviously your opinion, but in the quote, in what you said it doesn't, it takes all of the best moments from other shonens, and, you know, it's done it better in those original shonens. And I've also heard that criticism of the highs in My Hero Academia don't ever reach the same levels of other highs in other shows, which I think are just really the most hype moments. And I'm just curious to know, like, specifically, like, what are those moments to you in other shonen?
Okay, I think like my favorite kind of quality, like my favorite moments from like what I've seen of My Hero Academia, and I think I've seen like 1.5 seasons. I like All Might. I think All Might's really cool. I think the idea of having this character that is like infinitely more powerful than the main character, and giving that like main character like a ceiling to work towards, or even something that they might never surpass, is really good. And I think All Might is a fun take on that. But like, have you seen Hajime no Ippo and Takamura? Sorry, let me silence that phone. God damn it. Because Takamura, to me, that character is like that same kind of impossible, huge mentor character. But like, there's moments with Takamura that like legit made me cry. There was moments where I just was rooting for him so hard and just wanted more than anything for him to win his match, because like he had become my hero. Academia. Like I liked him so much, and with All Might, I was always just kind of like, yeah, All Might's cool. He's fine. Another moment, there's a scene where, like in My Hero, a bad guy comes up to Midoriya or Deku, and he's like, he comes up to him in like a supermarket, and it kind of turns into like a kind of hostagey situation, and like it's grand. It's like kind of threatening. It's interesting, but there's a scene like that in Yu Yu Hakusho where Toguro comes up to Yusuke, and what's so like scary about that scene, it's like the first time someone from the demon world goes to Yusuke in his regular life and interrupts his date with his girlfriend, and it feels so intrusive and weird and frightening. And he takes Yusuke to an empty parking lot, and he goes, "Oh, listen, you're going to enter this tournament or I'm going to kill everyone you know." And it's just, I remember seeing that for the first time and it just being like chilling.
Yeah.
Hero Academia has never made me feel like that. But like, you know, I know people like a common kind of response to like comparative criticism like that is like, well, you should just appreciate Hero Academia for the things it's trying to do. But legitimately for me, there's no point in Hero Academia where anything it's trying to do on its own terms match the emotion I had felt from these other very similar stories. And I do think that's like a valid complaint, because to me, when we talk about anime, when we talk about like one show versus another, we have a finite amount of time, right? We do not have infinite time to watch everything. And so I want to know that what I'm watching at the moment is giving me at least as much of a high as what I consider the best of that. And, you know, that was the kind of thing that led me just kind of drop Hero Academia and be like, you know what? I think there's other stuff out there I could find. Again, if someone's going to completely disagree with that, that's cool.
Do you feel part of the problem with My Hero Academia is Deku? Do you feel like if people don't connect with him from the beginning or feel anything towards him and his story or whatever, that it makes the rest of the show a little harder to be invested in because it is so centered on him?
I mean, like, it's hard for me to call that a problem because I also know people love Deku. Like, I think there's a lot of people who really get something out of that character and maybe even like see themselves in that character. For me, like, I'm like, why are we concentrating on the least interesting person in this universe? You know?
Yeah.
But I feel like you could say that about so many shows where it's like, if you don't connect to this main character, it will be kind of lost on you, you know?
Definitely.
And, you know, I think I had just finished Hunter x Hunter when I started watching Hero Academia, and like seeing Gon and all the things they do with Gon was like, oh my God. And then with Deku, I just felt, and maybe they get there with Deku, but I get the feeling he's kind of on a track and it's not going to change. And like, if I'm wrong, that's really interesting.
It's a very slow and steady progression. No spoilers.
Yeah, I kind of figured. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with Hero Academia. It's like, I don't think it's a bad show. It's just, I know that the things it's doing well are not appealing to me. And like the way I've heard some people talk about it is like, it's like a toy box and you get invested in, you know, your one character and they're fun to think about and like you like to root for them and stuff like that. It's just not something that ever kind of hit home with me.
Gotcha. And now let's go back to humanizing Eyepatch Wolf. And for the last section
he
of the
was
podcast,
really human in this last question. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
We're more like, it's my MC and energy.
You just sounded like a villain to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you a big
hero.
Hero Academia fan, Oni?
I think I am for the most part. I've kind of like, you know, I had like, when I went to do my video on it, I spent like 2 months, that was like last year, like reading like just brain dead like comments, like criticisms about My Hero Academia, because I was trying to understand like because I never had issues with it. So to me, it was like news to me that people didn't like it, didn't like Deku, but like some of the criticisms just did not make sense or were just so superficial. Some were valid, some were pretty good. But I just spent so much time like just trying to, because I wanted to also articulate it well enough to produce something, you know, that made sense. And understand like the themes it was going for. But after just diving so so much into it, it made me like this staunch defender of it afterward.
Yeah. Like, well, like here's like where it kind of lost me initially, and this is like the kind of example of just a super personal thing where it's not even the show's fault, but like I was so bummed in like the second or third episode when like Deku does all this training and like he gets super ripped, and like it's like a really cool scene. It's really inspirational, and All Might's like, now eat some of my hair and get really strong. That just killed Deku's arc for me, because I was like, oh, like I feel like that goes against everything interesting the show had been building up to. And like I get that he still has to fight and struggle, but to me that story is nearly more interesting if Deku has no powers. But that's because I love watching underdogs kind of crawl their way to the top. And I get that there is an element of that in Hero Academia, but not to the point that I wanted from that show, I think.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest criticisms I kept seeing over and over, where people expected Deku's arc to be more like a Batman, you know, where that was the whole point. The whole premise was, what would it be like if you were in a world with powers and you were the only one without powers? And then,
but then like maybe that's just not the story that guy wanted to write. So it's like, how much of a criticism is it? But for me, it was enough to be like, okay, I don't know how much I like this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's valid, where a lot of times you're like, okay, this is totally fair if the story wants to do that, but it's not clicking with me. And it's I feel similar sentiments to this series and others, where I'm like, if this is the element that makes you guys really love it, I don't feel that. So I'm probably not going to enjoy this series at its best.
Yeah. And it's not my absolute favorite. I do like what it's doing. I do like where it's going. I feel like it's always been building upon itself. Like it doesn't have the highest peaks like other shonen, but it's continually building on what came before. I love that whole element of passing of the torch and kind of building upon itself. But I feel like it's going to have to be one of those shows that has to kind of fully complete itself, like to end before I can make a call on it and everyone can kind of have their final consensus on it, kind of, because I feel like it's been building towards something since the beginning. And I understand if that's kind of too much of an investment for people that
I feel like that can be a dangerous gamble to make with shonen.
Yeah.
Because shonen are not designed to end.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like for me, a lot of the time, like I think people get really worked up about endings, and like again, like I keep going back to Yu Hakusho, I would say one of the worst endings of any shonen ever. Like I think the last
I don't know about that. Attack on Titan just came out, so we got the bar is, I don't know where the bar is at. So I think,
but to me, like it's like, am I having a good time watching it episode to episode? And that is going to be 90% of my opinion on it. But yeah, it's interesting. Sorry. Anyway, I kind of put myself back on the dehuman throne there.
No,
I think it was very, very human, very My Hero Academia. I think that was.
I think that's valid. I think we also
nothing
have
but
to,
good takes.
in the community, I think we also have to start like letting people feel valid for having their own experience with something, and just, you know, if it didn't jive with you, that's okay. You don't have to watch 50 episodes of it if you don't want to, because if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Even Onimaru's friends who don't like the Chimera Ant arc are valid. Even them.
Well, let's not like lose our fucking minds here.
You know, and then actually last section on this, if we have a little bit of time here, is
we got about, I think, 20 minutes, if that's cool with you guys.
I think
whatever works for you.
Do this. This is dependent on us. Should be like 5 minutes. Do we, me and Shaw, do we have our own bad takes, our own worst shonen takes that we'd like to share with the class?
Oh, I definitely do. Well, the My Hero Academia one is always the go-to one, but since that bad take has been stolen, I mean, I haven't seen the big three. I think that's a bad take based on not childhood me not knowing that I should have watched hundreds of those episodes in order to be prepared for today.
It's also like you didn't make this 800-hour investment. Like I think that's okay. Like,
but
you know,
what did I watch instead of the big three? Probably worse television shows. So that have not benefited me for now. But yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, here's my bad take. I don't think the Soul Eater ending is that bad in the anime. I think that's like an okay ending. And I know everyone hates the ending, but I think it's like a decent-ish ending.
I didn't read Soul Eater, so I can't comment. And I don't know too much about the ending. And in terms of me, I actually don't have any
You have no
bad-
bad takes.
All my
Imagine.
takes are great.
I
My-
guess I
my
cannot
opinions-
relate to you guys.
My opinion's pretty basic. Like it just fits the general consensus of what people say. Like, oh, Bleach got, should have ended at Aizen or, whatever. Like, I don't have anything like kind of unique. At least not for shonen. I really tried to dig deep and I found stuff that wasn't for shonen. So I was like, okay, that's a bad take. I mean, I think Weathering with You is a bad movie with a dumb message. If I want to go extreme,
Stupid movie.
Golden Time is extremely annoying and nonsensical. The two leads.
I actually started watching that last year and I had to drop it after like 8 or 9 episodes. I was like, I can't do this.
Can't
And
put
I
myself
loved
in it.
them. I loved her other series. What was it?
Toradora.
Toradora.
Love Toradora. Like, great show.
Yeah.
But here's the real question: have you seen "I Want to Eat Your Pancreas"? And if you have, how do you feel about that?
So I watched I Want to Eat Your Pancreas not even 1 week ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this timing.
timing.
Let's go.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty bad.
Yes, let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Odds in the chat, everyone. We got him. We
I
got him. Let's go.
I wanted to like it. I really did want to like it. A lot of it for me did just kind of turn into like, imagine you were a sad teenage boy
Yeah.
and this beautiful anime girl just thought you were awesome for basically no reason. And it was, I don't know. It just didn't, I think if you want like sentimental teenage, if you want to spend 2 hours watching a sentimental teenage movie about a boy and a girl in a Japanese high school, there are infinitely better options than that movie.
It's weird now that we're putting it in perspective and context. I feel like with I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, while I was watching it, I felt like how Eyepatch Wolf felt about My Hero Academia with I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It's like everything that this movie's doing, all the emotional beats, all the emotional manipulation has been done better in other romance or dramedy anime.
Yeah, and like, I think my favorite movie of the last 10 years might be Silent Voice. And so that's some heavy competition. God, I haven't watched a Silent Voice again after seeing it in the cinema because it just destroyed me in the cinema. Like, I was literally in my fucking seat sobbing like a child because I love that movie so much. It's not for everyone. Person I went to see it with came out and was like, didn't like that. And I was like,
It's like, I'm crying. At least pretend to like it. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, we're in public. I'm crying. Pretend it was at least good. Come on.
It was really well done.
Yeah, I love that movie. I think it's perfect. I agree. And funny enough, Deku eats All Might's hair, but there's no pancreas eating, and I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. So how good could it really be?
well, like, if we're really going to get to the meat of the issue, that was my problem. I was like, I
Meat.
feel like I was promised something from this title, and it is sorely lacking. 1
Did not
star.
deliver. Did not.
When the
deliver.
titles don't deliver, you can't really go up from there.
I have one more. Do you have any other bad takes, Sha?
I have many, but nothing that we can get into.
This
I don't
this'll
want to
just-
remind anyone.
This will make me the villain here, but I think Konosuba is overrated as hell.
Oh, I agree with that. Oh no, there's that. Don't dig out my bad opinions with that.
And that's all I got. Anything else you want to add to the fire, Mr. Eyepatch Wolf?
Oh, I could go all day, but
Wait, I want to know something.
for
This made me curious from the Space Jam 2 video. Do you actually hate Rocky, the film?
oh god, no, that's a fantastic film.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
I wasn't
that's
sure because you wrote.
Oni,
like,
I didn't write that. Michael
I'm sorry.
Jordan wrote that.
I'm so sorry.
I love Rocky.
Okay, because it did say the piece of shit training montage in Rocky, and I was like, come on, man.
Look, I'm just reporting what I found. Okay, like
All
it
right.
wasn't like I can't. I thought that was weird too.
All right, and I think with that, we're gonna get ready to head toward the Q&A after this. So first, I just want to thank you, Super Eyepatch Wolf, for agreeing to come on. It was just great having you on, man.
Oh, no problem. I can stick around for another little bit if you guys do want to do some Q&A.
Oh, like what we're doing here is like, because this is like an audio podcast as well, so we're just gonna end this part and then we're gonna like stop the recording and then we'll do
Transitioning.
the post show.
Okay,
So-
okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, but thanks for coming on.
No problem. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
If you guys like the episode, make sure to give it a like. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, help us grow. And if you have anything you'd like to let us know in the comments, like maybe a specific guest you'd like to see in the future, let us know who that might be, and we'll try to get them on if they agree. And besides that, don't take anything we said too seriously. We're not critical authorities on any of these things because, after all, what the fuck do we know? We're just weebs.
That's always been my feelings on the channel in general. I don't fucking know. I thought it was good. That's about it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So we're going into the post show now. I
So
think.
post any questions you have.
Yeah.
If
you
they
guys-
are bad, we will squip them. So
Yeah. If you guys have any questions for Eyepatch Wolf, let us know in the chat right now. We've got like a good 10 minutes.
I did see a question that was asked earlier. It was, what is your favorite sports shonen outside of Ippo?
Favorite sports shown? Probably Ice Shield 21, I think. And
Oh, I've heard good
maybe-
things about that.
Maybe more so the manga than the anime. The manga is the One Punch Man dude and just beautiful. Like, he's so good at doing like really cute character designs and then also just like the most badass action.
Yusuke Murata. Good stuff.
Like,
the
it's
manga
unless
is
you're going to
better.
crown like Baki as sports, but I don't think you can. I think Baki is just its own thing.
Yeah. I never got into Baki, but I did watch read all of Ice Shield 21. Really, really good.
I have to read it because it's apparently based on the like football style was based on like the old school Eagles, and I'm unfortunately an Eagles fan. So
Really?
Yep.
Man, I never knew that. That's awesome.
yeah, I'm from the like Philly area and went to school in Philly. So we go down with the ship, but we got the Super Bowl a couple years back. So
That's
Also,
pretty
the
cool.
main character in Dr. Stone is essentially, he's like essentially one of the characters in Ice Shield 21, and if they made him the main character, one of the most badass characters in Ice Shield 21, Hiruma.
Hmm.
nice.
Also, question on my part, is it worth catching up to Hajime no Ippo, since I've only watched the all three adaptations of the anime?
It's like it's
1,500
like
chapters, right? 1,500.
yeah, it's such a big commitment. There's a lot of good stuff there, but it kind of gets into like One Piece territory where it's like, how much of your life are you willing to give up to catch up? And like, there's great stuff in there, and like, I think it's George Murakami, I think is the author. He's awesome. Like, he's great, and like his manga totally does have a very different feel than the anime does. But to be honest with you, I was in love with that anime production. Like, I thought it was just one of the best anime adaptations ever, and I always miss it a little bit whenever I do dip. Like, I'm like chapter 8 or 900 in Ippo, I think, and I still kind of miss the anime. But if you really love the manga, yeah, it is, or the anime.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got a question. Have you heard of World Trigger?
Why did you pick
yeah.
that one?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I watched the first episode of the anime ages ago and seemed like not a great adaptation, but I have heard really good things about that manga. Apparently it goes some places and gets really good.
Yeah, the anime doesn't really pick up until like episode 20, so that's a bit of an investment.
Ooh, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so just read the manga and then jump to season 2, which is really a lot better production.
Oh, that's cool. I like it when that happens.
What are your guys' favorite artwork from manga? For Sha, it's JoJo Part 7, right?
I am. I'm gonna betray Berserk and go with JoJo Part 7.
Who? I think I have to go Berserk for that one panel of Guts sitting on the boat and he's all like
Yeah.
bandaged up, or I can never tell if he's bandaged up or if it's the indentations of his armor, but it just looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say Shokugeki no Soma before it got bad.
It did have good artwork though, and it had great character designs. That's
Artwork
like
was so
Yeah,
good.
that
It
dude
was so
can
good.
really draw. I'm reading Vagabond at the moment.
Yeah.
and wow.
Vagabond's wild. I got it
Yeah.
behind me. It's
I
like
never got
wild
into
stuff.
that.
It's
Yeah.
it's amazing. The one of him in like water with the sword. It's the one that everyone posts, but like just seeing that, I'm like, can never accomplish anything this good in my life.
Yeah, it's
We got-
amazing.
Let's see.
You're gonna skip this one, Onimaru, because it's putting more pressure on you. But someone asked, not sure if you've already talked about this, but what are your favorite arcs?
Oh, where's
'Cause
that?
that- You're gonna, because I know it's more pressure that you have to order
have
your
to
favorite
answer it.
arcs. Yeah, you don't, but yeah, if
Uh,
you have any favorite arcs, because we did kind of, I guess we talked about Chimera Ant and the trials and tribulations of people watching them, but just in general.
I think Dark Tournament Saga Chapter Black from Yu Yu Hakusho are like two of the best back-to-back arcs
Mhm.
ever. Water 7 from One Piece is fucking spectacular. York New City is actually my favorite arc in Hunter x Hunter. I love the Cell Saga. I know some people hate it. I absolutely love it. I think it's so wild and it's so much fun and there's so many different things happening. The pretty much any Takamura arc from Hajime no Ippo, the Soul Society from Bleach, I think is still just an incredible arc, like just such an amazing piece of storytelling. The Chunin selection exam is amazing from Naruto. Like there's there's so many I could think, like it's the most deadly death row inmates from Baki, the final arc from Baki Do where he fights Yujiro. It's like, yeah, it's kind of one of those things I could probably keep going forever and I'd keep thinking of like newer stuff.
I just feel less alone with the validation of the York New City arc being your favorite, because that's like my favorite, but everyone's kind of raves about Chimera Ant, and I just like Chimera Ant it has really great moments, but York New City.
I think Chimera Ant is way more ambitious, but I think as just like one crazy night, York New City is just amazing. And I think like that it's the moment where like Uvo Jin bit off that guy's head that I was like, okay,
that was insane.
Okay, we're doing this. Like this is happening.
Yeah, I'm a Chimera Ant stan, but I mean I love Hunter x Hunter, so like I love all of the arcs, but I still remember like the Requiem scene is just like one of the coolest scenes ever. There's just something like visceral about them, like him like conducting the violence of the city that night set to Requiem, like the composed song. It's just like absolute perfection.
So, and like it's so beautifully directed in the anime as well. Like just amazing.
Yeah.
Quick question here in the chat. Do you like Haikyuu?
You know, like I think it's grand. I have a friend who's super into Haikyuu, and sometimes she comes over and we just drink some beers and like watch a couple episodes. And I like that experience of watching it with her. It's like it's not ever a show that I've ever been super passionate about, but it's also a show I don't really have any problems with either. You know, it's kind of cozy and I like that, but I'm definitely not like on the same level of emotional investment that other people are.
Gotcha. It's a super consistent show though. So if you ever do get into it, like
I'm kind of tempted to like give it another shot because it always looks lovely and like the characters are really cool and yeah.
It's really good as like a manga and an anime because I've like read and watched both, and I know a lot of people are like obviously the anime because it's so well produced and the animation is great and the tracks, like everything is like top tier. But even just reading the manga, it's like a really smooth experience. So I think either or is really good. And it had a good ending, which is kind of rare in shonen manga. Not to shit on other shonen manga endings, but it is really rare.
There was something really heartwarming, even just about like looking at where like Haikyuu ended up in comparison to other shonen, because like a lot of the times shonens, they do kind of like just kind of sputter out. And Haikyuu had this huge swell in like its fandom, as well as like, you know, it sold loads, like it sold way more. And it like, I think it got into the Jump top 3 that year for the first time in like 4 years. And it was like, oh, you did it, guys. And it was great.
Yeah, it was very wholesome.
Who is your waifu? That's another question in the chat.
Question for the ages.
That is difficult.
While you're thinking of that, Asuka or Rei?
Rei, big time.
Okay.
No. I mean, I respect your opinion.
Cut his speed.
Opposite of what Giguk said.
You know who I like had just the biggest crush on when I was young? It was Juri, the ring announcer from the final round of the Dark Tournament Saga.
Oh, she's so cute.
Yo, she's cute.
So, and like the animation for her, so fucking cute as well. But then, yeah, I'm kind of like a sucker for like anytime there's like a super badass lady in anime. I like that a lot. I think I watched like 200 episodes of Fairy Tail just because I liked Erza.
Makes sense.
Seems like a good reason.
So there's no one waifu though, right?
I mean, if we can extend it out into video games as well. No, that's too broad. Okay, let me think. I mean, like, I'm in love with Faye from Cowboy Bebop, but like, who isn't? Like,
She's a
that's just how
goat.
that
Yeah.
that's just
She's a
how that
goat.
character goes. I like nearly every girl character in Hunter x Hunter is fucking incredible. Like, I love them.
Machi has a great
this-
design.
Machi.
Yeah, this is actually a weirdly tough question. Like, I'm having
It
trouble
is.
settling on one. Let's do another, and if something comes to me, I'll
Okay.
get back to it.
Okay. Do you see anything, Shaw, that you want to point out, or?
I like this one. Where do you see Jump Plus manga going, and what are your favorites right now? Because I think that's
me
they
pull
like
that
the
up.
Jump Plus
Right there.
app.
Jesus, I mean, like, if you look at the numbers, Jump Plus could potentially be an absolute, just complete game changer in shonen.
Mhm.
And like, I am so curious to see next year, like, is a Jump Plus series going to like outsell shonen series? Like, it might not do it next year, but the year after or the year after, like, it could actually do it.
Yeah.
My favorite Jump Plus series, there's that one. It has a really weird name, like Hokkaido Girls Are Cute. Actually, that one's kind of fun. Like, it's kind of just
Hokkaido gals are super adorable.
yeah, I think it's something like that. That's
Yeah.
kind of nice. But I think probably, like, it's a super basic answer. But Jesus, we've been podcasting for like an hour and a half, and my mind's going blank. But Kaiju 11. I think,
Oh yeah, my
Kaiju-
friend was talking about that. Oh, Kaiju number 8. I'm
yeah,
cheating.
Kaiju
and
number 8. I knew I was getting the number wrong, but
I have them up. Yeah.
I haven't checked on that in a while, but that was like one of them where I actually read like the first 6 or 7 chapters about a year and a half ago, and I was like, it's all right. And then I kind of came back to it and like really gave it a proper chance, and I was like, oh fuck, this is good. Like, this is really, really good.
Follow-up question to that, actually, because we were talking about this on a previous episode. We were talking about what is new gen shonen. What do you consider? Like, do you think there's anything right now that's? Are you currently reading anything that you think it's on the level of the original big 3?
Not currently reading, but recently finished Chainsaw Man.
Oh, you
Okay.
love Chainsaw Man too?
Absolutely love it. Like, it's hard for me to say like it's on the level of the big 3 because like the big 3 were so consistent for so long. You know what I mean? Like, they completely, like, what made the big 3 wasn't even their quality to me, even though I think they are all high quality series, but just like their numbers and their consistency and how they just defined like, you know, half a decade. And Chainsaw Man is not that, but if you want to talk about like a modern shonen that I can think go absolutely toe to toe with any shonen from any generation, it's Chainsaw Man. Waifu question: Power or Makima from Chainsaw Man? There we go.
Makima, no question.
Makima.
No
Gosh,
question.
she's amazing.
Power does not shower, so
Yeah, she's not a power fan.
She doesn't need to. Okay, I'm sure she smells great.
I'm not gonna find out. I'm not
We-
taking that chance.
We need to set up a power debate between Shaw and Eyepatch Wolf. You know,
Are you
guys,
do you pick Power over Makima?
Well, whoa, let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not go crazy here. Okay. I just really like Power, and I really like them both. I think they scratch very different itches.
Yeah, I will not say more Power comments after that one. But yeah, I agree. I think they're both pretty cool too. I love Makima a lot. I think she's kind of like symbolic of Chainsaw Man, like just doing different things in really interesting ways. So I cannot wait for the anime.
There's moments with Makima that made me feel, I think, just more uncomfortable than I have felt reading manga in a long time. Like, there's a scene towards the end, and it just takes place in her apartment, and she has some dogs, and I won't say any more than that. That really, like, do you ever read a scene that has such a strong impression of you that you can picture everything about the moment you read it? I know what the light in my room was like. I know what the weather was like outside, and I'll never forget that. And oh my, yeah, she is just such an amazing character in such a just absolute GOAT series. Like,
Yeah, I remember reading that scene. It just left me feeling hollow.
yeah, that was the feeling. And it was like, oh no. And but then I was like, I'm really glad that something can make me feel like this again. Like, I'm glad that, because I think there was I went through a long period of shonen where nothing was really grabbing me for the longest time. And then Chainsaw Man was like, oh no, I still love this shit. Like, this is still amazing.
Yeah. The stakes in it are just insane.
Yeah.
Quick question for you in the chat. Are you looking forward to Guilty Gear beta in a couple of hours?
Yes. I don't know how much of it I'll play because like I played a lot of that. No, I'll play a lot. I'll definitely play a lot actually. But I'm like in on Guilty Gear Strive. Like I'm so excited. I do not need to play more. But yeah, I think I need to get in there and I need to try out, they gave her glasses now, and that's exciting for some reason.
I don't know too much about Guilty Gear, but did you like Blaze Blue?
I've always been more a Guilty Gear guy than a Blaze Blue guy, but I still like Blaze Blue. There's still some cool stuff in Blaze Blue.
Cool. Let's see.
I saw one. What do you think of Asuka the wrestler?
Oh, let me go back.
Oh, she's like one of my heroes. Like I love her. There's a section. I have a video called "Professional Wrestling is Stupid and Beautiful," and I love her, or something like that. And like there's like a 3-minute section just on why Asuka is incredible.
Yeah, I just watched that last night, so I know that section.
Yeah. And she like a legit hero of mine, because like I feel like women's wrestling in America was like, it was a kind of thing, and it was actually like starting to go through a really good period. There were a lot of female wrestlers who were really starting to do their own thing in some exciting ways. But then Asuka came along, and she was so different and scary and weird, but just captivating. And to me, it's like, that's how you make art. Like, you do shit that is different from other people. You disrupt things, you make people fight and argue. And that's what art should be. And yeah, I love her.
Question regarding the wrestling thing, since I did watch your video. Was there ever a point, since I guess you watched it growing up, that you didn't know it was fake? And then when you found out, how did you deal with it at the time? I know your opinion on it now, but
I think I was like 10 or 11, and I was walking down I was out for a walk with my dad. We were walking my dog, and I was like, "Dad, is wrestling fake?" And he goes, "It is, son. Yeah, no, like they're not really fighting." And I kind of paused, and then I went, "No, I don't believe that." And he was like, "Okay, son."
I did the same with Santa when I asked if Santa was like real, and they're like, no. I was like, well, I don't believe you, so I'm gonna go with my answer.
It's just like your little child mind wants to believe the thing that's most beneficial to it.
I took it really hard because it was a period in I think 2002. I got really, really into wrestling, really into WWE. Like 2 years, I went in hard. I went back. I would buy the pay-per-views from the 90s. I'd watch the old stuff. I knew all this trivia. The friends that got me into it, I knew more about it than them at some point. I would that became like my thing that I was always watching. And then when I found out it was fake, I took it really hard.
No. Oh, that sucks.
Oh,
I was just like, oh no. It's like, and then I gradually, lost some interest and whatever. Cause it didn't bother me as much that I guess the fighting like was fake. That was part of it, but just that the beef and the storylines like weren't true. I was like,
you wanted to believe they really hated each other.
Yeah, it was so cool.
But sometimes they do.
That's awesome.
That was the
That's all that
interesting
matters.
part about your video that added some context, like the Triple H example. I didn't know that. That was super cool.
Are you familiar with the whole Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels thing?
Rivalry? Yeah, some of it. I know.
So they fucking hated each other in real life,
like
really, really badly. I have a video called "Villains in Wrestling," something like that.
Okay.
You don't need to watch the whole video. You can just skip like 10 minutes in, and there's a section on basically Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, two wrestlers who had to work together and just hated each other so much. And it's really interesting because that vitriol does come across in their matches. And anyway, you guys should not start me talking about wrestling.
You should not.
That's where we get to the true meat of everything.
Well, now that we're just talking about it really quickly, while you were talking about the Golden Lovers in that one video, I had just come off your Space Jam 2 video. So like for some reason, the fan fiction, I was starting to see parallels between your Golden Lover storytelling and the stuff you decide, like the stuff that was happening with Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny, and Space Jam 2, and the decisions he made towards the end.
Yeah.
I was like, I see some parallels.
Well, like that kind of stuff. Sorry, before I go on, did you have like a specific question?
Nope.
I think for me, it's like that has always been a huge thing in my life. It's like, are you going to commit to this thing 100% and try and be the best at it, or are you going to like have relationships with people? And I remember like coming out of secondary school and like going to animation college, and like, you know, if there's any animators like in the chat or whatever, animation is it's a pretty brutal industry to get into, and animation college is notoriously bad for like burning people out and like, you know, massive amounts of workloads. And you know, at the time I just met like my partner, and we'd met like just before we got into college, and you know, I really liked her, but there was this like, it nearly felt like a choice of nearly having to like choose between her and like getting really, really good at something. And I remember watching Yu Yu Hakusho, and I think one of the reasons that show does just resonate so hard with me is because that's the central conflict between Toguro and Yusuke. You know, it's like, be with someone you really care about, or throw everything else away in the name of just achieving. And that has always just been a big part of my life, you know? And so I think when like I saw the Golden Lovers, it was that theme echoed. And then like, you know, when I finally did like write my own Space Jam 2 fan fiction, that was going to be one of the central themes that kind of emerged in it. So yeah, that idea has always it's always resonated with me really strong.
I think that's really cool that you have like that really specific theme that like might not be as apparent to other people, but if it's any consolation, hopefully you can take pride in knowing that you got to be, you know, choose relationships and also be one of the best creators on YouTube. So you kind of got to win it both, even if it wasn't what you originally set out for.
Yeah.
I don't know. You should maybe sit down and talk to my partner someday and see what she feels about it.
They all
But
have
thank you.
horror
That's
stories.
very sweet. Like, I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's super interesting, especially that you really honed in on that for your Space Jam 2 video, because that whole thing about Michael Jordan was what interested me a lot, and what I questioned a lot when I was watching the Last Dance documentary, kind of like his drive and sort of like the sacrifices you have to make to be the best. But so it was just interesting to see you kind of like really like kind of go into that part, explore that in the Space Jam 2 video.
Yeah.
Let's see. Any other questions?
That kind of ties into one that we can kind of compare. We can combine, and then that can be our last one if nothing else pops up. Someone asked, "What is your favorite video you've made?" Basic, but a good one to get into.
You know, a lot of the time, I have to be honest, like, I finish a video, I put it out, and to me, at that point, it's not really mine to have an opinion on anymore. And like, you know, a lot of the times I will come out of a video just wishing I had done 1,000 different things different, you know? But I think there are a couple of videos throughout the years that I can kind of look at it now and see that it was like a turning point for a channel, or it was when I was like taking in, I guess, like a bigger scope of, I was understanding that I could do more. And I think one that kind of comes back to me is actually one I did called Why Perfect Blue is Terrifying.
Yes, I love that video.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got it really excited about that.
And I think the reason that video is like a big deal for me is because that video is about like, it's kind of about the terror of being known. Like, it's about the terror of kind of being seen by an audience. And I remember like I watched Perfect Blue a couple of years, like about 10 years ago, before I had a YouTube channel. Thought it was a great movie. Thought it was really like interesting and like, oh, you know, it's really well directed. I found it like disturbing, maybe not scary, you know. And then I started doing YouTube, and, you know, my channel started kind of like, you know, culminating a bit of a following and stuff like that. And this was around the point, I think I had about 100,000, 110,000 subscribers. And I sat down one day and I watched Perfect Blue with a friend, and it scared the shit out of me so badly, like so much worse than it ever had originally. And when you go back and watch that video now, what that video is me realizing that there's now all these different versions of me on the internet that kind of people have their own interpretation of. And I think what I like about that video is it's so clearly me from that point in time, having this quite horrifying realization about like what, like, you know, the admittedly like limited amount of fame I was acquiring was. And so it's a very personal video to me, even more so than when I made it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think it aged like better than anyone could realize, like both for your video and I think Perfect Blue as a film, it becomes only like more relevant as time goes on. But it's also
Yeah.
cool to like capture that specific point in time that like you made it and like had those feelings and revelations.
And
Yeah.
what's insane about that on a personal level is that I watched Perfect Blue only like a year ago, with my Discord. And I thought, like for the context itself, some of the stuff is still relevant and it's disturbing, but the realizations for me as a YouTuber was what made it horrifying. Not that I have reached any of that like level of subscribers yet, but the thought of like, what am I aiming for? And if I'm aiming to get that big, this is what it could become. And then that just in itself was horrifying.
Yeah, and I would say like a relatively large channel in general, and it's great, and there's a lot of stuff that's really really cool about it, and like even just like meeting you guys on this podcast and stuff,
Aw.
like it's like, but like little moments like this are the kind of best thing about it nearly, because like you guys wouldn't know who I was, I wouldn't know who you guys were, and like we get to do things like this, and it really is like the kind of little human interactions that are kind of some of my favorite stuff. But that said, like it's also like frequently horrifying. You know what I mean? Like it is genuinely like the torrents of just infinite feedback that is happening all the time every day can be so deafening. And I think it's good. That's why like when a lot of time when I talk to YouTubers, I'm like, you should be having fun making these videos. And as corny as it sounds, that is the most important thing, because like for all the good that comes with like having a large following and being well known on the internet, it's also, there's a lot of hardship that comes with it. And like, it is very taxing on your mental health. It's very taxing on your personal relationships, and I think like the most important thing is that like, if you are making YouTube videos, just make what you want and have fun doing it, because like it is the simplest joy you're going to get out of this.
Very well said.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
perfectly
that's it's a hard choice to make nowadays, but I think mental health is so important. It's so easy to overlook. So, and that's the thing that, kind of that breaks down, you can't really keep doing anything. So,
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we are going to end it on that because I think you have to go. So let's that was the last question we're going to ask, right? And then, all right. So thank you for joining us.
No problem, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Super
thanks
Eyepatch
for
Wolf?
coming on. We had tons of fun. So, yeah, welcome anytime you're free and interested. So,
Yeah. Anytime you're willing to
Awesome.
come back on.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We'll just see you on the next live stream. Later,
Yeah.
everyone.
bye.